Dan, do the invocation.
Let us stand and remain standing for our pledge. Our Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day, and what a gorgeous day, Lord, that you've made. And Father, we just thank you for this past weekend and how we saw the love of our community come out and support one of our officers who had been injured in Iraq. And Father, we just thank you, Lord, for that. We ask you to be with the Dykes family and just continue to let him improve. And what a wonderful testament, Father, it was to see him there Saturday night and smiling and greeting people. And his attitude is great, even though he has a long way to go. Father, we ask you to be with our mayor and council here tonight and just give them the knowledge and the wisdom, the boldness, Lord, they need to make the decisions to assist our community. In Christ's name, amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous for? Do we have any citizens' comments? Okay, I'll open the public hearing on item A. Robert A. Brinkley and Barbara Brinkley are requesting a rezone from an R2 property to an R3 property. The properties are located at tax map 38B, parcels 28 and 29. Is there anyone here to speak on that topic? Hearing no one, I'll close that public hearing. Item B, Emerson Properties LLC is requesting to subdivide the property into 2 lots. The property is located at tax map 37C, parcel 5A1. Is there anyone here to speak on that topic?
Yes.
Please.
Larry Hartline, Emerson Properties. We're asking for the permission to subdivide this one particular lot that the farm report is sitting on. I need some of the additional lot for parking for the farm report restaurant.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to speak on that topic? I'll close that public hearing. Item C, Deidre G. Cummings is requesting a variance of the 100 feet street frontage of an R2 property to 75 feet per surveyor's drawing. The property is located at tax map R9, parcel 78. Anyone on that topic, please?
My name's Joel Chandler. I'm Deidre's father. I've got a friend of mine in Kentucky that is wanting to build a house there, and it just I'm trying to say. It's always been the same size. Now, I did buy about 50 foot behind it from a neighboring neighbor to make the lot bigger. I didn't make it any wider. And so now it's like, I believe, 75 foot wide and 150 foot deep. The house that they want to build on it is going to be 28 foot wide and 48 foot deep. So even though it's a narrow lot, we still will be able to abide by the
Setbacks.
setbacks, I couldn't think of the word, to get it in and have more room than just the setbacks left too.
Anyone else on that item? I'll close that public hearing. So, on the first one, Robert Brinkley and Barbara Brinkley rezoning from an R2 to an R3 on tax map 38B, parcels 28 and 29. How would the council like to proceed?
I'll make a motion that we approve the change.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? It's unanimous, board. Item B. Emerson's looking to subdivide at tax map 37C, parcel 5A1. How would the council like to proceed?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I got a motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous, board. And item C, Deidre Cummings requests to change the setback from 100 feet to 75 feet at tax map R9, parcel 78.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the variance.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion to approve the variance.
I have a motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? It's unanimous, board. Okay, old business, item A, RSVP Steering Committee update. Dan?
Give me just a second, I'm gonna get to a slideshow, if you want, if that's okay.
All right.
Right. First off, there were several of the council, I know Mayor Millwood, Mayor Pro Tem Terry Crawford, that was on the steering committee that's already heard some of this. So, and I know Councilman Franks was out of town that day, wasn't it, or had another engagement, couldn't make it. But let me give you some, and I've sent you some of the information that was provided by University of Georgia. But last week, Danny Bivens, who all of you probably know, who's the senior planner from University of Georgia, Carl Vinston Institute of Government, met with the steering committee. You want me to turn the lights down? Yeah. Met with the steering committee to give us a summary, sort of an update of the overall project that they've been working on. And he said some things initially that I thought was very interesting. He said a community our size, they would have anticipated about 400 surveys. They almost had 1,300 surveys. He said they were just absolutely amazed at the amount of interest that our community showed. Another thing that was very interesting, almost 83% of all the surveys reside in the 30736 zip code, which pretty much tells us it's our folks that's doing it. Since the survey was also online, there were some people that may have been in the surrounding area. We also know that we had business owners and community leaders that may not live in Ringgold or Catoosa County that also participated in the survey. So that's what made up the other 17%. Another thing that I was amazed by through all these surveys, Danny said, one thing is always mentioned. It's always on the issues side, and that's a lack of communication. He said, you know what? That was not an issue in Ringgold, Georgia. First one we've had where that wasn't an overwhelming issue stated by surveyor after surveyor after surveyor after surveyor. So I think somehow, that's probably the great news media that we've got that covers our meetings. I think having our meetings live, being on, where you can watch them online, you can actually watch it live streaming is helping. The newsletters that we send out every 3 months, I think, is another issue, and we try to go through, keeping our website updated and Facebook and all the things that we use to try to keep people in. So the process that we're going in is threefold, and the 3 steps, and you've heard it said before. And the first step is where are we going? or where are we at now, excuse me, where are we at now? And that's what we're doing right now. We're sort of gauging the community and finding out where are we at now. The second step is where are we going, and then the third one is how do we get there? So now we're in between that first step and that second step. In looking at some of the demographic and economic analysis, 42% of all retail sales within a 5-mile area of Ringgold occurs in and around downtown, which is a very strong number when you look and compare ourselves to other communities. One thing that the economic analysis did show is that downtown could benefit for additional dining options. There's a lot of money that is leaving our community, going to other communities for dining options. You may say, well, how do you know that information? It's real simple. Credit cards and debit cards. And they can track it all back down to pretty much pinpoint locations and know where people are spending money. They know where they're coming from to spend the money. So that's a good way to gauge where people are taking their money. Some of the top hits on the survey, sense of community. People feel like that Ringgold has a great sense of community. It's a strategic location with 3 exits on I-75 located between Chattanooga and Dalton. We're in a great place. The local economy is strong. As you well know, many of our industrial sites they're not only expanding, but they're hiring more people. You can look around and you'll see help wanted signs in a lot of our restaurants. We've got a technical college here. The reason they build technical colleges is to help educate the workforce, because you need more workers. So that's a great thing. The history of our town is another top hit. Our natural features, with the beautiful creek that we have, with the mountains and the ridges, we've got a lot to offer for people when they come here. Now then, let's talk a little bit about the top issues. Of that nearly 1,300 surveys, people are concerned about managed growth and to preserve the small town feel. We want to see us create a local destination, whatever that may entail. They're concerned about traffic and infrastructure needs and outdoor recreation. What we've got is great, but they want more of it. Did I see Earl out there somewhere? Ringgold in 3 words today. And they took all of those and did a thing, and they just put up all the words, but these were the largest words, which means it was said more often. Friendly, historic, community, quaint, safe, and walkability. I think we can all agree that pretty much sums up where we are today. Ringgold in 3 words, what you would like for it to be in 10 or 15 years. Thriving, destination, restaurants, growth, vibrant, and small. And then input addresses, more downtown restaurants. We keep hearing the same thing over and over. Building improvements. There's some buildings that need some improvements. Infrastructure, better connectivity through sidewalks, street trees, and parking. Downtown draw, music and events, and then our gateways. When you come into the city, do you know you're coming into the city? What are those gateways? And then finally, I wanted to show you, everybody's been to an optometrist, except maybe, well, yeah, Nick has too, he's going to glasses. So I want to show you some pictures, and you tell me, 1 or 2. That's what my optometrist says. Which one's better, 1 or 2? So 1 or 2? Anybody?
This is Lafayette Street, right?
It's Lafayette Street.
Right there by ShopRite, or where ShopRite was.
Okay. This is the crosswalk across from, looks like Dr. Graham and Dr. Chewy's office. 1 or 2?
2. Always.
And then this is going up on the other side of the Pet Street, Mayor, there behind, I think that's Adam Cathy's
That's right.
office. One or two. And when you see these type of photos, they're not taking up any real space. They're using areas that are striped off for no parking. That's what they're trying to show here. And then one or two. And as my optometrist said, one or two. And then across the street from the, on Emerson Drive across from the park, one or two. And talking about having that connectivity that we talked about, I think at the retreat, about trying to connect the downtown with a nice walkway, a safe walkway to our recreational facilities. And then here's one I think is pretty obvious, and this is going to Barger Bridge and the public parking behind Mr. Teeter's many warehouses, one or two. And then the young lady that a lot of you met at the town hall meeting, the graphic designer, she come up with a few thoughts maybe for some different banners that we put on our flagpoles. Since we have a great patriotic type town where we support our veterans by putting up their flags, maybe coming up with something like this. I like this one too.
I like that.
Let freedom ring gold. I thought that was good. And then something that I'm not so sure about, but that certainly looks attractive. I think it would detract from the depot, but I thought it was pretty nice work. But Mayor, that is pretty much the update of the Renaissance, and I can get it, I think.
Thank you, Dan, and that's the presentation that they gave to us was just top notch. They put a lot of work into it, and I thought they made very good use of the space that they had to do some of those. Really, some of the additions are big. Like sidewalks are not cheap. Sidewalks are a lot of money. But you know, just a few trees. I think they were showing crepe myrtles in those, which are good for walkways and shade, and just along walkways. It was very well put together, and I thought it was a good vision for what our downtown can look like, tying in our downtown to Lafette Street, going down in front of Richard's Restaurant and stuff, and then tying into our recreation area down that way. And I thought that was a very important thing, tying our downtown to our recreation area. It was a great presentation. I see a lot of value in the vision that they had for that.
What's great is more to come.
That's right.
More to come.
Plenty to come.
Plenty more to come.
And I think a lot of it is fresh eyes that's not from here, coming here, and then all the multitude of input that the people of our community has given us. And they've just taken it and looked at it. Then, of course, a lot of it was the pictures that the steering committee all had to go around and take, 5 good pictures and 5 bad pictures and those type of things. So very positive results, and we're certainly excited about it.
Yeah, Danny's done a great job, and again, that came from a grant from Lyndhurst, and they're putting the money into that, making that available to us. We're very grateful and happy to be on that particular path where we're exploring these things. Did anybody have any more comments on that? We good?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I only see things that we already have, like sidewalks in the works. I mean, they're on our plan to expand anyway, so now we've got a little more into how those sidewalks could look for our town and what we could do to enhance the, just the appearance of just putting those sidewalks in. And so they really were building on what we've started as a city.
That's right. That's right.
I think that's great.
Yeah,
Don't tear it down and build it back, but
what we've done on our main strip out here, they were looking to extend that, and they did a great job
Yeah.
of showing that visually.
And Mr. Mayor, because I was absent from the meeting, I read the full report, as I'm sure some of you did as well, but I was very impressed to see in the report, one of the main things they were doing is reinforcing the things that we as a city have been doing over the last 5 to 6, 7, if not longer, but especially since I know from being here the past few years, the focus that we've had, and they reinforced a lot of what we got on our goals in what they suggested that we do. So I felt that was a good direction, that showing that we were walking in the right way.
One I really liked was going past ShopRite down through there, connecting over to the ball fields and everything. We can do something there and not even put concrete in the ground. We can do a walking trail, possibly some picnic tables, some other things. One side of that's woody, the other side's a street. We can leave a green space between the two and come back and do something there. A lot of things that we've got potential that we can work with.
Okay. RYSA annual presentation, Mr. Epps.
I don't have nothing like the dam.
Oh, that's fine, that's fine.
Dam fraud.
No slides, sure.
No slides, your numbers. I mean, we started a usage agreement or partnership last year. Last fall, we had just under 187 kids in the fall. We had 209 in the spring. We expect the same or more this coming up year. I think we finally got all the kinks worked out with this checklist that was in the agreement. So I think that'll be much easier in the future. Our April, our soccer director, is going into her second season, so it was kind of overwhelming to her what she had to get done. But now I think she has that under control. And beyond that, I mean, do y'all have any questions of us?
No.
No, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate seeing the kids and the families out there, and more of them. It's just so good for the community and quality of life. I really appreciate what you guys do.
This is Josh German. He's our vice president.
And I appreciate the fact that we've gotten, as you said, a kind of a system in place and something that can just roll with the years and can be tweaked as it needs to be tweaked. But we've got something now that we actually can affirm, and you know what's expected, we know what's expected, and it's kind of, I think it will be a little more automatic for you all now. So that's great. I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question for Earl.
Sure.
Was there anything in that agreement that you had questions for us, or anything that was not pretty much straightforward that we need to talk about?
We sat down and addressed it early on, addressed most everything. There's a few things that April brought up. I think they addressed those that were basically asking for information every single year that never changed. And they've addressed that, and it's just a matter of just resending this same document. So there's things that just don't change. And then we have under control now.
Good. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Earl and I had a good, quick meeting early on today, and one thing that did come out of that meeting that I think the city could definitely help on, but that's the marketing portion of what they do. I think we need to do a better job trying to include them in our newsletters and the things that we do to try to make sure that our citizens know that, Ringgold Youth Sports Association is, they've got basketball, they've got soccer, they've got lacrosse, they've got football,
Baseball, softball.
and baseball, softball. So that's the place they need to go, and we probably need to make sure that our websites are linked together so that people can go from there. And then we have a tremendous amount of people that come in and sign up for new water services that are new to the area, include that information inside their welcome packet, so that, because where do you go?
Sure. No, I think that's great.
Yeah, we set that today.
And then we're the only soccer league in the county. So we need to be sharing that information throughout the school systems, even all the way to the west side, to make sure that, because there's a lot of kids that play soccer, and we're probably losing those children up in
For a while.
to the Y or to
Redoubt.
East Ridge or Redoubt.
I'm gonna
Dalton.
I'm gonna connect our registrations manager to their marketing, city's marketing person earlier on. I mean, it's just, we know months and months in advance. So it's just doing it. It's just hitting the right windows. And we'll get her, I think she'll be around for a while now, so we'll get her connected up so she can do those things.
That's the biggest thing, I think, is just trying to partner with them on some of those type of issues.
Thank you, Earl.
Thanks, guys.
Old business, item E, SPOS 2019. Dan?
Yes, sir. On my page 27 of the agenda pack, you've probably got a, sort of a historical layout there on what the city has done over the past several years. I'm trying to grab the projector again. I wanted to look at a few maps with you. Because I know when you looked at them in your package, you may have thought, what are we trying to show here? The first map that's actually from the Catoosa County Joint Comprehensive Plan between Fort Oglethorpe, City of Ringgold, and of course Catoosa County. And this is talking about House Bill 489, the service delivery strategy showing the location of who provides service where. And I'm going to turn and point here just for a minute, if you'll pardon me. Of course, this is an outline of Catoosa County, and this line here is the crest of Boynton Ridge. And everything from here west will be in the Fort Oglethorpe sewer basin, or what we call the West Chickamauga Creek sewer basin. This area here is the Chattanooga-Chickamauga National Park, and I don't see them letting people develop much in there in the kind of the near future, except maybe bears and deers and such. Everything from here over, though, is in the City of Ringgold's basin. And of course, that includes the Peavine Basin. It also includes what we call the Ringgold Basin, and then the East Chickamauga Basin, which is exit 345, just to give everybody an idea of what we're talking about. The City of Ringgold is held responsible for well over 2/3 of Catoosa County, if not 3/4 of Catoosa County, providing sanitary sewer to it. So the next slide, just so everybody's oriented here, downtown Ringgold, and then here is the industrial park. The green dots that you see, that's the existing sanitary sewer manholes. And the green area is the area that is inside the city limits that we actually serve. The red dots would be if we went down Little Chickamauga Creek. That's pretty much where you're going to wind up. And then I marked Craven Road right here as possibly a phase. Another phase there, and that's Walker Lane, if anybody's familiar with Walker Lane. And then this is the Yates Rodeo area, so that might be another way you might think about it. Initially we thought about, well, what if we ran a trunk line all the way down there? So keep that in mind, and then let's look at a different slide. That would be like option A. Option B would be to take off and just go past, Luttrell Lane, and then go, and try to maybe get 2 or 3 acres where you can actually serve it. And this may be just phase 1. And the thought there is, if you do that, then the city could grow more methodically down Alabama highway. Since they are going to be four-laning it, the city could, of course, annex properties along Highway 151, and then you would see a lot of the red dots that we put up in this area that would, due to the lay of the land, would probably be more in line with some residential type developments. But you know, where you put sewer is going to be a place that you're going to see growth naturally. The next option B would be the area of Peavine Basin. And I took the liberty to put, this is Post Oak Road, the red dotted line, and then this is the blue dotted line is the Three-Notch Road. And that's a pretty large basin that stretches down there. This is Heritage High School and Heritage Middle School, and they are currently on grinder pumps, and they have to transfer all of their sewer out of the Peavine Basin over into what we call the Baggett Road area. And then it hits another pump station and has to go back to Three-Notch Road eventually. So it would be good to get them off of a pump station. And this area, of course, is an area of prime growth when you look at in particular basins. And
All that could just gravity right into.
that could gravity. Now, some of the school maintenance people may prefer to continue on pump stations because they get to visit those pump stations quite frequently, and it's a lot of fun. The next slide that I have for you is, this is the Peavine Basin, and it has sub basins inside it, and just wanted to sort of run through what had been accomplished. And of course, you see Morris Estates, it's been rehabbed. This was the county's plan back in the 90s. Meadow Lane, we've provided sewer to it. Foster Hills is just finished up. Graysville Road was done several years ago. Blevins Acres was done a few years ago. Three-Notch Road Estates is being finished up currently. In fact, I think the video is being reviewed and it should be going hot in the next few days. Leon Estates has been completed. Townsend Estates completed. Townsend Place, Melody Estates, and then a portion of Woodgate that falls to the west has been sewered, and then Three-Notch Road, it's a little sub area there. That's all been completed. So we're getting down pretty much to where you see this area right here. That's the Fox Den and Scenic Hill area. That's some areas that have not been sewered yet. And of course, we could always look at putting that on our list. What we're talking about tonight is on July the 31st, we have a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners, and we sort of need to come together collectively and decide on what areas need sewered the most. We've been doing a lot of these subdivisions, and while that's good to do, it's extremely expensive. With the housing market the way it is right now, developers are saying they're running out of lots. They need new lots to build on. It would seem to make sense to me if we run some trunk lines where we know people are probably going to be able to develop some subdivisions, then they could go ahead and provide the sewer while they build the subdivision. It's a whole lot cheaper to do it that way than it is to come back and try to retrofit a subdivision where it was not designed for sewers. The roads are not in the right place. Yes, you have to get private easements, you tear everybody's yards up, and then I become your best friend.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to talk about whatever you'd like, but we do need some direction on, do we want to look at trunk lines? Do we want to look at just continuing to sewer some subdivisions? Or do we want to do a mix of maybe finishing up some of these areas that we've talked about?
Well, just looking at it, And one thing that I think about when we're talking about extending the sewer line is, you know, as opposed to going through areas that already have subdivisions, going through areas that may not have subdivisions that are potential developments. And that's really just because of how much less of a headache it would be for you guys, for our workers, I mean, you go through and you tear up people's driveways and people's yards, they might not even want sewer, and my goodness, what a headache. And so if we go through an area that has great growth potential and can hit things like Heritage Middle or Heritage High School, I like what it looks like at option P on page 32.
Well,
Mr. Mayor?
That's a significant extension there, but you know, it's all the way down that basin there.
For the purpose of discussion, I just want to move we suspend the rules for discussion of this.
Oh, sure, yeah, motion to suspend the rules, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous for? Did you want to go, or
No,
Sarah?
no,
Go ahead.
Sarah, I think. was
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor,
Mhm.
I think we need to do a combination of things. I think that Dan and I talked today, and I think it's really good if we can, as you said, provide these lines to subdivisions that are coming, or residential areas that are coming and not already there. But I think economically, we need to somehow run a line so that we capture in the future some of that land that's going to be developed either commercially or industrially, because that's where the revenue is going to come. I mean, you know, we love people and we love subdivisions or whatever in our town, but they don't pay for themselves over the long haul, shown in various parts of the country. But if you can get lines out to what would be developed as what is our next industrial site, or what is our next commercial site, or where are we looking at those pieces of property, I think we should be sure to try and start the process of capturing some of those.
Will you go to option B, Dan? Because that kind of looks like more in that area coming out of Rollins Industrial Boulevard and extending it.
And I mean, I think a combination is for the reasons that you mentioned and Dan mentioned with new development residential,
Mhm.
but this is, we have to do it, I think, in combination with something that has potential to bring us real revenue with industrial sites, that we're ready. If you're ready to develop, we have this service ready for you.
Dan, I was reading through the different things that we can use SPLOST money for. Are we looking to put as much money of whatever our portion will ultimately be into sewer? I know that we haven't had an in-depth discussion on the board about it, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, in the past, we've seen the county do two things, and it's ultimately the Board of County Commissioners' decision. They have agreed to give each municipality their population percentage of the total goal. The total goal is $60 million, according to Mr. Walker, about a week or so ago. That equates to $2,520,000 if all of it is collected. Normally, we don't collect it all. We try to get close, but normally, you know, you may get 85% of the total collection. Those monies, Mayor, of course, in the past, we've tried to use them for water and sewer purposes, and I know that, you know, we've acquired a $600,000 water tank ARC grant that's going to require a whole lot more in order to build that tank. We've also got a well that, you know, may fall into this particular SPLOST funding cycle. So I would think that the lion's share would probably go towards water and I sewer rehabilitation in Ringgold projects. Maybe some vehicles you know, maybe use some vehicles, maybe use a little bit of it to maybe help our fleet
Yeah.
and give it some relief. But
Well, just looking at the scope of the projects on here, it's,
But Ms.
option B is in the most industrial, it's the least expansive. Go ahead, sir.
Dan and I also discussed, and I'm a novice at this, so I'm just working on what I'm learning. It's not just what we would do within the city with our portion of the money. This whole discussion is what we want to encourage the county to do with their portion of the money, and that would be the sewer. I mean, for us. So for us to you maintain sewer, encourage the county to put in these lines that will help us, even if they're outside Ringgold, if they're contiguous to Ringgold, so that we're looking out to the future, that our city limits will be expanded. I think we want to encourage the county to put some efforts up for their SPLOST money that way.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last 3 splashes, of course, you know, they've done that. In 2004, they gave or allocated up to $11 million in sewer expansion. In 2009, $10,750,000, and then in the 2014, $7,400,000.
So we benefit from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're just doing, we're just operating a system for them when you go out into these areas. But there's an awful lot that needs to be done. As you can see by that first map, there's a lot of area that has no sewer. And if we're going to go from 65,000 people to 135 or 150 in the next 20 years, well, this is a 2019 splosh. It won't be collected until 2024, you know, and the Thrive 55 says that our population is just going to go crazy by 2030. Where are they going to go? They're going to go in these areas, more than likely east of Boynton Ridge, because a lot of the side on the west side is built out. So another thing that we haven't talked about today is, along with new lines, we have a need in the Piedmont Basin, especially for reducing inflow and infiltration. So that's something I think that we need to put on our list. Some of the sewers there are allowing rainwater to get in, and we're hoping to have a meeting very soon with the city of Chattanooga, because you know they're very concerned about that as well.
You know, Dan, I've had more requests down Alabama Road. There's a lot of people that's looked at that, a lot of property owners down through there. We've got the college over there now, and this is going to go. It's going to develop, and it's a matter if we're ready for that development, opposed to having to try to come in and do everything in a hurry. We've got some time, and part of that's rough. We've got a lot of rock in places, and we need time to go in. And I really like that about going over toward the other 2 schools. There's a lot of open land out there.
What we could do, one way we could do this is we could have one of our consultants just do a cost estimate based on just what they've seen in construction, and put some inflation factors in there, knowing that it may be 3, 4, 5, 6 years before it's actually built out. And that would give us something to actually lay before the county commissioners. I think showing each one of them something, let's face it, each one of them has constituents by district. And their question is going to be, well, what's in it for my district, if they're like most humans are.
Mr. Mayor?
Please, yes.
Dan, we're coming up on that meeting next week, so is that something they can get to us, I assume, fairly quickly?
Yes, sir. Brent McDuff had produced sort of a real rough estimate on a portion of the Heritage High School because there was a property owner looking to do a large development over there. So they would just have to take off from that point and run it on down. And then, yeah, I think any of these within 2 or 3 days could turn something around like that.
I guess the key question, and if we've seen the amount has varied from 11 million, a couple of SPLOST, to now the last 14 SPLOST, 7.4 million. So the question is ultimately what our commissioners are going to dedicate in this SPLOST cycle. If they're going to give us, go back up to that 11, I think last time they put a little bit more in the Fort Oglethorpe Basin, if I recall correctly, to balance things off. So I guess it will ultimately decide how much money they put, but I tend to agree with Terry. I think if there was enough money there to do both the Peavine to Heritage Middle School and Heritage High School, as well as make some expansion down Alabama Highway, we may have to take that short expansion rather than the longer expansion. Because unfortunately $10 million or $7 million does not go very far. And we know that from just running what we ran down to 345 a couple of years back.
Ms. Clark also reminded me of the sewer or the stormwater money for Chapman Road, Highway 41 that we had agreed on. So we'll also include that in our packet.
Okay.
And as you can tell, Mr. Young didn't even know what the format's going to be, so we'll try to get a better idea of exactly how that meeting is going to go about. I don't know.
Well, and for me, what you're saying, what Terry's saying, we do need to look at that combination. I mean, strategy-wise, we need to look at growth as a residential area near the schools maybe, but then we also need to go at least start down Alabama Highway or encourage them to do and say, okay, we're looking at growth both ways. One will produce, we don't have to say that to the county, that one will produce income. I would assume they would know that. More income than the other, but then we need to satisfy the needs of open land being developed residentially as well.
And I think, and I can say that now because I only have one son at Heritage and he'll be graduating in 2 years. I think if you was able to get sewer there, that you would see another town center. Because you've got about, what, 2,600, 3,000 kids that are in that area. There's nowhere for them to eat. There's nowhere for them to shop unless they go all the way back to Battlefield Parkway. But I think you'll see a natural town center build up in that area.
It's a lot of open land down there.
Yes, it is.
Do we need, for the purpose of our meeting next week, do you need some guidance from this council as far as saying these are what we're looking at?
Are we going in the right direction?
I think
I mean, that's,
Yeah, well, I mean, the county needs to hear what, they need to see these maps and they need to know what considerations we're taking into account. And really, I mean, they hold a lot of the cards in this. We're going to have to get some guidance from them.
they hold them all.
They
Yeah.
hold them all except for, and ultimately they hold what they're going to give us on our percentage. So.
And normally, we have been given an opportunity to have a conversation with them and present what we feel like we need. And then at some later point in time, they will, they'll gather up all the requests and go through them. It's not a one meeting process.
Well, I talked to Mr. Hendry over there Saturday. He said he was really looking forward to this and what input we had. So I think they're going to be open-minded.
And we need to work with Commissioner Johnson as well on maybe if there is a need down around 345.
Okay. Any other comment on that? Procurement of police vehicles, Dan?
Yes, sir. I think Chad had put or Chief Bilbrey and Chad had put together a list of vehicles. As you all know, we've lost, I think, 3 vehicles in the last few months due to accidents. And They're showing here that they can buy 3 2017, however, the 2017 are all gone as of about 5 o'clock today. So the 2018, that would be between $800 and $1,000 total difference, not per car, but total difference. I think I would want the 2018 anyway for $280 to $300 a car. But they're requesting that we allow them to buy those with using the asset forfeiture money, the reimbursement money from the 3 that were totaled out, and then there's some police contributions and donations, and that also includes that $13,000 or $14,000 from the gov deal that you authorized at the last meeting, and then technology fee to help, get some of those vehicles outfitted, $12,000. But they're coming up, he's saying $5,200, it's more like $6,200 shy, and I would recommend that we will find that money in a different fund and take care of that. For them to get 3 new cars, they badly need them right now. They're going to have to order them, so it'll take a little while to get here. But you would authorize us to go ahead and purchase
I
them.
make a motion that we authorize them to buy them, and that we put the $1,000, even if it came out to be $1,200, $400 a car, to go ahead and give them that price.
Yeah, do we want to make it up to a certain amount just so that we make sure we have it covered, like maybe up to 10,000, or you're anticipating it would be around 6,200, is that what you said?
I'd say 6,500, if they need more, they can let us know.
Okay, that's good with me. I have a motion to approve with the additional funds.
Second.
A motion and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous for? New business item A, intersection improvement and site development agreement. Chad's not here. Dan, did you want to just touch on that, or?
Of course, this is the Project Jump over on Battlefield Parkway, and we really just, if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them, but I think Chad probably addressed everybody. We need to authorize the mayor to sign this agreement if you all encouraged to do so.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we allow you to execute the document.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous for? Municipal court update and fees. Elizabeth Brock talked to us in work session. This is about potentially adding a fee schedule when people come to court. We don't charge court fees, and it's a substantial administrative task to deal with when people come to court. Did you need any action on that, Dan, or is that something that we need to?
I don't think so, Mayor.
Okay.
I think we got the gist of where this board stands, and we'll have a meeting with the judge and the solicitor and the chief and the court clerk, and try to come together as you requested with a plan, and say this is what we feel comfortable with.
So we'll just look forward to you getting back with us whenever you make contact with them and get that input. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And she's also doing as she can, a survey on where our fines and forfeitures are to the surrounding area. Because it's been a pretty good while since we've looked at that.
Okay, good. Catoosa County EDA Highway Project, Highway 151 project, Dan?
Yes, sir. The county is just asking that we go ahead and authorize the mayor to sign the deed to take over ownership of the road. There's pretty much they've taken care of the punch list items, especially now. And of course, we have a long-time relationship with Brown Brothers. They were doing several other projects for us and for Catoosa County. So if there's something that pops up, I'm sure they'll come back out and fix it.
Can I get a motion to authorize signing off on that?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous for? Planning and zoning amendment process. Randall?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things that I would like for the Council Center Planning and Zoning for review, to look into these things being added to our current planning and zoning ordinances where it's appropriate. One of the areas is in the process of when a application for a permit for a new building being built in the community, that prior to the issuance of the, I believe Dan called it the shell permit, that there would be a process that the person asking for that would provide the designs for the exterior of the building, showing that they match our current ordinances, and as well as their landscaping design that would match our current ordinances. And that would occur and be reviewed prior to the permit for them being able to proceed.
Prior to any
being
building
issued.
permit.
Right. Then at that point, if they decide they wish to apply for a variance based on the current, whatever the current codes are related to the property they're dealing with, then that would be the point in time that they would do that in this process. And if they choose to make that differentiation at that time, then it goes through the appropriate variance process. And if we abided with their request, then that change would be made, and if not, then they would pursue it as it was, and then they would pursue it based on what they'd submitted at that time. So those are the two things, to be most specific, to provide, implement building exterior and property landscape design submission and approval prior to permitting, and then require all variance applications prior to any permitting to be completed through the planning and zoning process. Those are the two things that I'd like to send to planning and zoning and ask them to look at how we might improve that process and place that in our planning and zoning code currently. So I make a motion that we send those two items to planning and zoning for further review.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment to that. We've got Mark back here. We had talked at one time before, and I would like if zoning and planning, when they get this, would take into consideration our different, like C1, C2, C3 zones. Right now, we've got one that's supposed to cover everything. And I don't think that's what we really need, what we really want. And I'd like for them to look maybe at stopping at C1, starting this for C2 and this for C3, and do all that at the time they go through this. And I think if we do it, give them a chance to sit down and chew the fat on some of this, it'll make it easier on all of us when the time comes. It's a struggle for them sometimes, the things that they have to go by the way it's drawn up, and then they bring it in here. So I'd like to see them go through and take a good look at this.
And I appreciate the motion. I think that it's needed. I think that this will greatly reduce the confusion and issues that come up whenever somebody's in the middle of a process, and just getting it taken care of on the front end. My goodness, how much easier would that be for both parties? Yeah. So I appreciate this being on the agenda and the motion in the second.
Mr. Mayor, just not include what Terry's talking about. I would like for us to do what Terry's suggesting. It's not part of this motion, but what I'd like to do is we sort of have a previous piece that we tabled. Let us as a council come back together and look at that previous piece and then send that back to them, if that's okay.
I just like to get it all in one package for them.
Yeah, I think they're going to be looking at several things for us, so if that's okay with you, I would love for us to give them a little more direction than just send it back to them and say, y'all come back with your ideas before we give them direction and then start changing it. Because they reviewed something and sent it to us and it's still sitting. And I think we need to give them some direction back before. But so, Mr. Mayor, if we could proceed on this, and then maybe in a week or two we can send back down what Terry's talking about.
I agree. We need to look at what Terry brought up. That's absolutely necessary. But I do have a motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous vote. Do we have any council comments to the public?
You got one left.
You got
Oh.
One more last.
memorandum of understanding.
Oh, yeah, memo of understanding for law enforcement traffic detail. Please, Dan.
Yes, sir. Sheriff Sis provided this to Chief Bilbrey to handle the traffic for, I guess, C.W. Matthews on Highway 151 widening and I-75 bridge. Request that we come together collectively and provide any of the officers to handle traffic duties on those. And the sheriff, of course, he said he didn't have enough officers to handle it all, and asked the Fort Oglethorpe and Ringgold cities come together so that they can sort of spread those shifts out and make sure that they cover it, especially when you're looking at a project that's going to last, 3 to 4 years. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions.
So I guess what we need is a motion to enter into that agreement.
Yes.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved, I'll make the motion that we enter that agreement.
Okay. Have a second.
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous 4? Do we have any council comments to the public?
I have a question.
Sure.
In relationship to our sunshine law and our open records, Mayor called me the other day, and he was asking me questions about what I thought about this, if I could support that, and he was going to call the others. I do not think that polling this council one at a time individually over something that's not even been discussed here is appropriate. And Dan, if you need to, I'd like to check with our lawyer and see if I'm right on this, on open records and polling. But I don't think that is something we need to be doing.
You felt like I was asking about a vote? About?
No, you were not asked, well, yes, you did ask for a vote.
No?
You were polling everybody to see what their opinion was.
Sure.
And I don't feel that polling is right. I don't think it's ethical, and I'm not even sure that it's legal. But I'd like to get a decision on if it is or not, Dan.
Dan, please do that. Please do that.
That's not the way we need to handle things here.
Anyone else? Okay, I think, do we have any executive session?
No, sir.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We can do it together.
All in favor? Unanimous 4, we're adjourned.